Okay, so having done the most basic app in Angular, now I'm going to show you Ionic, which is very, very similar to Angular, and I'm going to kind of unapologetically switch between the two because I think if you're just purely searching for, say, tutorials on the web in Ionic, you might not find the things that you want because there aren't enough of them. Whereas if you look as well for Angular tutorials, you find them. And also, Angular and Ionic have changed a lot between their initial versions and their current versions. And so when you are looking for online tutorials, you need to look for Angular 4 and Angular 7 or 8 and Ionic 4 rather than some of the early ones. Some of the early ones are still possible to do, but you maybe have to do little tweaks. So that's why I'm kind of alternating between Angular and Ionic, because I think you need to use both if you really want to learn Ionic properly. So this time I'm going to now create a new Ionic project. So now remember, with Angular project it's ng new. With Ionic it's slightly different. It's Ionic start. Okay, so just type in Ionic start. Okay, and then when you do that, what happens is you're presented with a number of things. So project name. So I'll just say, for example, a hyperlinking example. Okay, that's my project name. Now it says a starter template. Now I'm going to use the tabs one. Because that has got a simple tab interface, because that's kind of quite a straightforward way to understand how navigation occurs. So I'm going to create you click on return on this one, so make sure it's the tabs one, preparing directory, and just as with Angular, we have this long download of lots and lots of files, megabytes and megabytes of files, and then we can start. So I'm going to pause my recording slightly and then eventually come back to you. So here I am, I've created my project. So I need to, it gives you actually at the very end of the process, it'll actually give you sort of like the instructions for actually going into that folder. So if I type in there cd hyperlinking example, that goes into that folder, and it says run Ionic serve. So it's like ng serve, but you use Ionic serve, and you've got there is even a thing like dev app where you can actually try out your app with different kinds of devices. Okay, but let's just forget that right now. First of all, let's go into choose open folder in Visual Studio Code. So go there, open folder, and I'm going to go to hyperlinking example, select folder. Okay, and that's kind of now going to, and you'll notice the structure is pretty much the same. You've got the serves folder, you've got app, you've got assets, a few slightly different things. I can't remember there being theme in the Angular example before. And if you look in assets in the app, it's given you a different default template. It's given you the same initial starter template, with app component being, if you like, the first file of all, like before. But it's given you these tabs here. There's tab 1, there's tab 2, and there is tab 3. And then there's another thing called tabs. Okay, so let's just quickly look. What does it look like? So again, go to the terminal, new terminal. Okay, and again, we're going to do now Ionic, the serve command. So we're going to type in Ionic serve. So type Ionic serve, and this time it's port 8100 rather than 4200, which is on Angular. So let's go back to here. So it's still doing its compiling a bit. Okay, and eventually it should come up with something like this. So you got now you notice it says tab 1 here. It doesn't look like it, but at the bottom of the page you've got there tab 2 and tab 3. Now this is optimized for a mobile environment. So let's go to just at the moment they're using the very basic developer tools in Chrome. So I'm going to choose toggle device toolbar, and so now we're in a kind of a mobile interface here. So there we got them. There's tab 1. If I click on here, tab 2 comes up, and there's tab 3. So tab 1, tab 2, and tab 3. Now if we were doing simple HTML, these would just be simple buttons with something like ahref equals tab 1, ahref equals tab 2, ahref equals tab 3. Notice as I click on these various tabs, you've got there the location, tabs tab 1, tabs tab 2, tabs tab 3. Okay, so how is that actually achieved? And well, first of all, let's go and put in some content. If we go to here's tab 1. Okay, now notice just as at the very top you have this selection of a certain file named .html, app component HTML, app component. In this case, it doesn't use CSS as being its default styling language. It uses SCSS. So app component.scss. Then it's got app component.ts. So it's similar. It's very, except for the SCSS, it's pretty much the same as Angular. Okay, at the very top. But you'll notice even in these sub parts like tab 1, it is the same thing, same kind of principle. Tab 1 page.html, tab 1 page.css, tab 1 page.ts. And you'll notice this tab 2 is exactly the same. Okay, so let's just change some of the data in these things. So here's tab 1. That's got these welcome card, etc. Tab 2, which I think we've seen, tab 2 has got nothing, just says tab 2 and nothing in the content. Okay, and tab 3, there just says tab 3, nothing in the content. So let's just go into tab 2. So in here, ion content, let's see, that's a kind of special kind of element for ionic things. So type in h1, this is tab 2, and if I go to the same example, tab 3 page.html here, ionic content, I'm going to do another h1, this is tab 3. Okay, I'm going to save. Now I did a save there of tab 3, but I'll also need to save tab 2, so I'm going to do Control S on that one as well. You notice every time I do a save, it does compile. There's also the file option, which is save all if you've got more than one, which we would do. But now if we go back to the app, there's tab 3, this is tab 2, and there's tab 1, welcome to Ionic. And notice there you'll see that there was that Ionic card you may have remembered here. So if I go back now to tab page 1.html, there we have assets shapes.svgs. That's that nice little picture at the top. Get started, welcome to Ionic, and you've got some hyperlinks there. Okay. Ionic, href, etc., etc. Okay, so again, let's see this. I'll just say rather than get started, instead of welcome to Ionic, just type in this is tab 1. Okay, I'll save it, and then my app says this is tab 1 inside this Ionic card. So an Ion card is just some kind of like a bit of it's almost square shaped content in the middle of a page. So and now how is that routing done? Okay, well, let's have a look here. So we notice that we're navigating between tabs 1, 2, and 3. But then there is this other thing here called tabs itself. And if I click on that one, you'll notice this tabs page.html. This is where all the linking is done. Okay, so it's just like, so ion tab bar slot equals bottom. So that means this tab bar, which we see, is at the bottom of the page rather than at the top of the page. But I could change that. If I were to type in now ion tab bar slot equals top, and I save that, okay, and now if I show you that again, you'll notice I've got tab 1 at the top, tab 2, tab 3. So I've just changed the position of that navigation bar. Okay, so you'll see there tab equals tab 1, tab equals tab 2, tab equals tab 3. So that clearly is this is the place where the navigation is taking place. So how is that navigation taking place? And this is when you get into the whole business of routing. Okay, so if we want to kind of to see how this is being translated in a kind of an action to change position here, we need to go to tabs routing.module.ts here. Okay, so so import ng module, etc. So we're importing the tabs page because we're going to be using we're going to be referencing that particular class here, tabs. So we get, and if I just click over import tabs page from tabs page, okay, I'll just go back to tabs page.ts. So when you say from dot something something, they don't put in the .ts. It's just kind of assumed it's there. But there's tabs page.ts, and that's what it's basically importing. Okay, so anyway, let's go back to where I was before. Okay, so and you have this core concept of roots, which all Angular and Ionic applications will have. And notice here you've got, say, a concept of a path. A path, okay, so it's a JSON array of three things. There's your first thing, there's your second thing, and there's your third thing. Okay, and then there's one kind of like a catch-all. Somebody doesn't bother even to put a path in, that will take you there. So, and that refers to the paths of tab 1, tab 2, 3. Notice I click on tab 3, and you can see there the actual URL, localhost 818 tabs tab 3. Click on that one, tabs tab 2. Okay, and this one, tabs tab 1. Well, all of that navigation happens as a result of essentially being called the path of tab 1. So what it's saying is this: in these routes, each route will have a path. Okay, and it will be, this path will be a component. So if you think by typing in the path, that will load the component. But this also has children, okay, and you'll notice here there's tabs in tab 1, tab 2, tab 3. So, and then the subpaths of tabs are tab 1, okay, and that has a path. Well, there's no subpath to this, and then it's got this function here, load children, import tab 1 module, then it's basically saying load this tab 1 page module, okay, which comes from, if I go to tab 1 page.ts, okay, and they've got there equals tab 1 page. Okay, so it's all getting a bit, I realize it's getting a bit complicated, etc. at this moment, but but essentially using the tabs here, tab 1 and the children is that. There's tab 2, there's a path, that's the path tab 2, and that will then load those children. This is a path tab 3, and that will load these children. Okay, so it's actually how you are able to navigate. Okay, so would it be possible, for example, to add a fourth tab? I think it is. Let's see.